Within every After Effects project, you have compositions. And within the composition settings is an area where you can specify a renderer. A renderer is the part of After Effects that analyzed the data contained within a composition and determines how the scene should look. Things like the shininess of a layer, or can a layer even have shininess? Can the layer exist in 3D space? If it does exist in 3D space, can it have 3D depth? Different renderers give you different options. And in this tutorial, I'll show you how to switch between renderers in After Effects. Start by going to the project panel and double click on the 01 Naturalist 2D composition. This should look pretty similar because it's a bunch of Illustrator CC layers on top of an orange solid one. Select layer 1 and press P to open the position. You will notice it has X position and Y position, which means it exists in 2D space. In order to create 3D space in After Effects, all you have to do is enable 3D for a layer. So go to the right side of the switches column here and click in this box to enable 3D for that layer. Once I've enabled 3D, now I have X, Y, and Z for the position of this layer. Now if we go down, you'll notice I have material options. Open the material options and you can see there are several different options. Light, transmission, diffuse, spectacular, intensity. Don't worry if you're not familiar with these terms. It's easy enough to figure out. Once you start scrubbing with the different parameters, the important thing is to understand there are material options, and that determines how the material will appear within this renderer. So, collapse the material options. And then you'll notice the geometry options are grayed out. If you look to the right of the geometry options, click on the text change renderer. That will automatically open your composition settings directly to the 3D renderer area. By default, After Effects is in the classic 3D renderer. This will allow you to position layers in 3D space, but they will remain 2D layers. Click on the drop down and choose Cinema 4D. Immediately, you will see a list of features that are enabled, like the ability to intrude and bevel text and shapes, and then there are features that are disabled, like blending modes, and track maps. If we want to change this composition to the Cinema 4D renderer, all we have to do is go down and press OK. So go ahead and press OK. Once we do that, now we get access to geometry options. If I open to the geometry options, since this is an Illustrator layer, I have the ability to curve that layer. Now, I already set up some compositions with the different renderers, so if you get a general idea as to how the object would appear within these renderers. Go back to the project panel and double click on the 02 Naturalist Classic 3D compositions. In this comp, you'll notice I have 3 different lights. I have a camera, and I have a bunch of layers that exist in 3D space. Select the camera 1 layer, layer 4, and press P on your keyboard and open the position. Scrub on the X parameter of the camera and see the depth of the scene. While these layers are flat, they exist in different planes and Z depths. So we get the perception of actual 3D. Go back to the project panel and double click on the 03 APEEK Cinema 3D. And notice this one actually contains an element that has true 3D at depth. If we look in the timeline, go to layer 4, and you can see we have a shape layer. And this shape layer has created by converting this Illustrator layer. So I will select layer 4 and press R to open the rotation and orientation settings. If you click and drag on the Y rotation, you can see this object is a true 3-dimensional object. And that's only available within the Cinema 4D renderer. When you are in the Cinema 4D renderer, if you go to the upper right corner of the composition panel, you will see the button that says Cinema 4D. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll notice this button will take you to the composition settings in the 3D renderer area as well. So you can change the composition back to a different renderer. Just understand if you want true 3D depth in your objects. You need to be using the Cinema 4D renderer.